everyone, welcome to Coffee Break. It's Steve Barrett here, the editorial director of PR Week. I'm here with a very special guest, Rob Flaherty, who's the chairman of Ketchum and has been working in this industry for decades. And he's retiring. What's a young man like you doing retiring, Rob? Surely you've got many years left in the tank.
Well, you know, as they say, I'm not retiring from life. I'm just retiring from full-time work. And I have lots of things I want to do, and most of them aren't work. And I want to travel. I want to spend more time with my family. And I'm actually joining you from my new art studio. And I want to do more art instead of just doodling in meetings, which I've done for 40 years. And I'm looking forward to so much. I'm not worried about how I'll fill my day.
Yeah, I remember your doodles at events and conferences. And have you seen what Gary Vaynerchuk's been doing with those doodles and making them into NFTs? Maybe there's a big new lucrative career for you there.
That's right. That's right.
Talk us through it, because you spent 32 years at Ketchum, 40-year career in total. Pretty much had most of the senior jobs at Ketchum, including CEO. Talk us through that career and the changes you've seen in the industry and where you think we're at now. I know that you originally intended to retire a year ago, but clearly events kind of took over and you sort of wanted to see the company through that difficult time.
Well, I've seen so much change in our industry. The most seismic change, of course, was the fragmentation and democratization of media. So we created, as you know, we created a whole industry basically to enable corporations and brands to go to the gatekeeper of the media, but the writer, the editor, the producer. And if we could show them a version of the client's story that was compelling and newsworthy in their estimation, they could reach millions for relatively low cost. That was kind of our model. And it's called media relations. Well, that model gets significantly disrupted about 15 years ago with the rise of social media. And, you know, what happens to the role of the gatekeeper in the absence of offense is the question. And what happens to the business model that was built around the gatekeeper when that happens? And that led to, of course, sweeping transformation of Ketchum and every PR firm and every in-house department. So my career went from I got a degree in this field. A lot of people who go into this field didn't get a degree in it. Journalism and public relations. My internships, my PR internship was in Planned Parenthood, and my journalism internship was at an NBC affiliate in upstate New York, and I got to be on-air talent. And I loved that. I go into public relations on the client side for 4 years at a brewery in upstate New York as the director of public relations. I loved that. And then 5 years at Burson Marsteller during a very good period at that company in the 80s. And then I joined Ketchum in 1989 at 30 years old as the associate director of the New York office. Ran the New York office for 7 years.
Was that the Dave Drobis era?
Yes, absolutely. Paul Alvarez, Dave Drobis, and Ray Kocher, Barry, me, and Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, and a brilliant sort of sequence since then, with Ray taking over, then you taking over from Ray, and Barry taking over from you, and now Mike Doyle taking over as well. So interesting sequence of events.
And Mike is doing a phenomenal job. We are having a very good year. We've returned to growth. We've hired over 200 people just since January. So I'm thrilled. You know, it's hard to believe, but Mike is completing his first year this month, and on to his second year, and it's going to be a great one.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think when you went through something like the dot-com boom and bust, you thought you'd never see anything like that. But this past year, for a sort of crisis or a disruptive influence, it has to be unlike anything you've ever seen. What are your reflections on that as we hopefully start to slowly come out of it?
Well, you know, it's interesting. The founder of Intel once said, "Only the paranoid survive." Right? I think I've gone through my whole career being appropriately paranoid. And I always thought of an agency as a pretty fragile ecosystem of multiple interdependencies. And almost like the game, what is it called, where you have Jenga? Is it where you have the pieces of wood that come out? Jenga. Yeah, Jenga. Where you know, if you lost a key group of talent, if you lost a major client, or if the culture became corrosive, the whole thing could melt down. And you and I have both seen in the course of our careers, yours covering it, me in it, where agencies have had a very hard time, gone through a very difficult period. I always thought agencies were fragile. And I can't tell you how proud I am at how resilient most agencies have been, and particularly Ketchum, because not only did we get slammed by the pandemic, but we also had an unexpected CEO transition in the middle of it. And we've come out stronger than ever and about to enter our second century as a strong agency. And it leads me to believe, we weren't ever as fragile as I thought it was. It's good to have someone as the steward of a brand who is concerned about that. But we proved to be a lot more resilient than I thought.
Yeah, I think strong brands can be sustainable, and no one's completely indispensable, are they?
That's right.
That's the essence of a strong organization, that people can step in. How surprising was it when Barry went over to the client side, after a relatively short time as CEO?
Yeah, it was very surprising. She would be the first one to admit it too. Very surprising, because as you know, our CEOs tend to stay a longer period of time and smooth transition and all that. And so it was a big surprise. And but I'm happy to be working with her, and a number of agencies are, but we're happy to be one of them.
Now, you've always loved the client work and the new business side of it. And I think you're supposed to finish in mid-June, but I think people want to get that last piece of the Flaherty magic into their brand. So how much are you going to miss all that? Because that's something you've been well known for being.
I will miss it. I think the thing I most enjoyed was doing these strategy sessions with clients and narrative sessions. I think of a narrative session as the PR firm's Trojan horse to get into strategy at the C-suite level. And we've been using it quite effectively to do that for a long time, where, we don't have the brand permission to come in and do your business strategy, but you'll bring us in to articulate it. And in the course of it, we'll help to shape it. And that's a great place for us to be. It's the thing that they say, what gets you up in the morning? It's the thing I most enjoy. And the intellectual dimension of it, the ability to use the experience. I have found that having run a major unit of a publicly traded company and served on the board of organizations made me a better counselor when it came to communications and narratives for corporations, because I looked at it through the lens of a CEO. And the conversation with the C-suite was informed by my own focus on all the stakeholders, investors, employees, customers, communities. And I loved that, being able to leverage years of experience to put together a compelling narrative for a company. And I will miss that. And therefore, I'm probably going to do some of that for pro bono. I've done 2 pro bono ones already, and I'll probably find some charities that could use a more compelling story.
Yeah, that sounds good. That seems like a great thing to do. And one of the problems was that PR firms always used to give that away, didn't they? Whereas a consulting firm would be charging top dollar for it. And
exactly.
Charge a proper amount of work for the great strategy they offered.
And by the way, many times I've been basically doing cleanup for some of the consulting firms, because they will present a thick deck, and the CEO will come to me and say, I can't get anyone to understand our strategy. Can you help us tell the story? So we're there under the rubric of tell the story, but the fact is we end up making sense of the strategy they're pursuing.
Yeah, I remember having one of, I won't name the consultancy firm, but we had one of them at our conference a few years ago. And they had this fantastic deck with all these great slides. And I was listening to what she was saying, and I was thinking, this is exactly what the PR firms say. It's just dressed up in a really fancy deck and language, and probably charging twice as much for it. So, yeah.
We've been using a lot of consulting. We call ourselves a communications consultancy. We've been using a lot of kind of consulting models now, particularly as it relates to the pandemic, DE&I, Black Lives Matter, some of the social justice and racial justice issues. We've been using quadrant analysis to kind of scope where a company wants to be on those issues. A whole bunch of kind of visual tools.
Yeah, one of the things you said when the announcement came out was that you've been working since you were 21, and you want a little break. And it's a hard business, isn't it, being in the agency world? And I think everybody after the last year especially feels that, right? They've been working even harder from home as mental well-being and homeschooling and all that stuff. So what's your reflection on the agency model in that respect, in terms of it's a people business, but you've got to look after your people if you're going to, be sustainable in the long term. Otherwise, they're just going to burn out, aren't they?
Yes, I've always tried to have a lot of empathy. I would say back 30 years ago, here's part of what I was saying to our people. This is not an easy job. You have to be very resilient, but you'll ultimately develop pride in your resiliency. Here's one reason. The context for a lot of other jobs goes to sleep at night. The context for our field never sleeps. It's the media, and now it's social media, and it's always on. And that's why, my dentist told me that when he goes on vacation, he leaves his phone home for a week. Every PR person is shaking right now, even thinking of that. How liberating, right? And I'm going to symbolically smash one of these, I think, when I retire. It's the electronic leash. It's always there because we're always on. The other thing is we always have multiple groups coming down on us. Management wants us to bill more. Our family says you're not home enough. The media is critical. They don't exactly send you a bouquet of flowers when you give them a good story. They're aggressive. There's so many parties, and your client, of course. Yeah, no offense, and the client is always demanding more. That's a lot of force that's coming down on a 25-year-old, right? But you do learn to manage it over time. Then you look at the positives. Huge variety, a giant opportunity at a young age to make a big impact. You're never pushed in a corner as a cog in a machine in this field. You're asked for your creative ideas in the first year you're in the business. So there are so many upsides and positives. But yeah, and that now fast forward into a pandemic and having to instantly learn remote learning, I have been very concerned about the mental health of our people and other folks doing this work. In some ways, though, it has been strangely liberating. My daughter's in the field. And when you take out a 2-hour commute, you have more flexibility in your day. And I think we're going to have to keep all of the good things that we learned going in the future.
Yeah, it's as long as you just don't end up doing an extra 4 hour, 3 hours work a day because you're not commuting. Because that, even though it's not a pleasant experience, it can be some of your own time. But yeah, you're right about the pressures from all the different directions, and you're going to miss the Omnicom budgeting process and all the getting the numbers right.
I can't say I will. It has been funny that I've been billing more time as chairman than I did as president and CEO, and I have to get my time in, all the time. And my assistant will ping me on Friday afternoon and say, I need your hours. And I've gotten a kick out of that. But again, that's a dimension of this business that a lot of people don't ever go through. The notion that you're going to bill 35 to 40 hours or more every week of your life for 40 years is also a dimension of pressure that I won't miss.
So just to finish up, what is the thing you will miss most, and what are you most proud of? Ketchum, you were the most awarded agency over the past 20 years at PR Week US's event a couple of years ago, and always done very creative work. So that must have been a proud moment. But what will you miss most?
Well, the obvious answer is the people. I have a lot of friends at Ketchum that have been friends for over 25 years that, you think about what is your social structure? Where do you exist? And it's, if you spend 60 hours a week at a place, that's a big part of your social life. But the good thing is that continues after you walk out the door. As the Eagles song says, you can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. And so I am in touch now with recently retired Ketchum alumni, or people who are still working but used to be at Ketchum and worked with me for 20 years. And in the notes that I've written to all of them, I just say, you don't have to miss me. I'm right here. you'll find me on my boat in the Chesapeake, and I'd love to get together. So I'll miss some of the thrill of winning new business, big pitches, and winning awards. Thanks to your company and others, we've had a good run doing that, and that's the fun part of the business. And I will miss the positive energy of doing that, winning. But I guess I don't have to miss the people because I'll always be in touch with them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congratulations on brilliant career. Thank you for the support you've given PR Week over the years, and look forward to seeing what you're going to do next. I don't think it's the final chapter by any means, but it's a well-deserved rest. So thank you, Rob.
Well, and thank you to PR Week and to you, Steve, for, an industry needs a good, I believe so much in the power and importance of journalism, and we really need that in our industry to explain what our industry is, to chronicle it, and to keep an eye on us. And you've been a phenomenal force for good in our industry. So thank you both personally and PR Week. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and we try to do our best here. We're all under different pressures these days, but we try and keep doing that role. So thank you, Rob. It's been great chatting to you on Coffee Break.
Nice to join you, Steve. All the best to you. Take care.